Well, hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. Now, if you've been watching my YouTube channel lately, first of all, thank you. A successful YouTube channel is a good thing to have right now. And also, maybe you've seen a lot of videos where I talk about Casio watches, and maybe it's hard to realize watching those videos that long before I started collecting watches, I collected a lot of clocks. And I actually have a few more clocks than I have watches, but I found after a while that I kind of ran out of places to put the clocks, and watches are much smaller, much easier to collect and put somewhere. But anyway, I wanted to make a video about why we love mechanical clocks, because again, you've seen me talk about a lot of quartz stuff, and maybe you didn't realize that I do have a good appreciation of mechanical clocks. Now, so most of the clocks I have are not mechanical; they are quartz, and part of that is they're kind of abundant. They didn't cost a lot. And all the clocks that I collected that were quartz clocks, there was always something interesting about them that I liked, and that's why I got it. Like, here's one right here. This is a clock with a THX logo on it. Now, when I was younger, I worked at movie theaters, and I worked as the projectionist with the 35 millimeter and also the big 70 millimeter systems. So I had a good appreciation of what the THX and theater alignment programs were doing that Lucasfilm was up to. And so back in the late 90s, I saw this on the website for THX, and I ordered this clock with the official logo on it right there. And when I got it, I was a little surprised. I thought, considering what I paid for it, I thought it would be a little bit larger than this. The other thing about it is, inside here is just a regular, run-of-the-mill, just off-the-shelf quartz movement. Nothing wrong with it, but nothing that extraordinary about it either. So the accuracy of this clock is, it's okay, maybe somewhere less than 20 seconds a month as far as the how far off it gets. But again, this is a perfect example of a clock that I got, for some special reason, even though to most people this isn't that extraordinary of a clock. In fact, it was many years later, I know a retired psychiatrist, and I was at his house, and I saw a clock that was this exact same shape and size, but instead of a THX logo on the face there, it had like a Prozac logo. So obviously there was a time when you could order up a whole batch of clocks in this basic style. I think his is a little bit different shade, the color here. You could order a bunch of clocks in this style and then use them as promotional material for your product or service or company. And obviously that's what I bought from THX, and that's what my my friend, the retired psychiatrist, got from Prozac, probably for free as far as that went. But anyway, this is an example of how I have a wide variety of somewhat rare clocks that aren't really super spectacular, expensive, that sort of thing. But I do also have the mechanical clocks. And so here are my 5.5 reasons for loving mechanical clocks. First of all, it's the craftsmanship. And I must hand it to anyone who's dealing with mechanical clocks today in the 21st century. If you've got one that you're maintaining, if you're buying one, if you're making them, if you're repairing them, if you have anything to do with mechanical clocks today, there is something special about what you're doing, no doubt about it. And the craftsmanship that goes into this, that's something to be admired. So that leads me right into the second reason for loving mechanical clocks, and that's the engineering that goes into them. You see, this basic design, this bit of engineering was worked out and first produced really in a practical manner almost 400 years ago. So with these same principles at work today in a brand new clock, that's amazing. And that's some engineering that you can admire. I love a clock like this one. It's kind of the skeleton idea where the gears and the escapement and all that sort of stuff, the pendulum, it's all exposed so you can see it and appreciate the great engineering that goes into this clock. So whether it's a clock that's that much open where you can see all the stuff, or whether it's inside some sort of elegant wood case where you really can't see a lot of that engineering, still you must admire the engineering. And that brings me to reason number 3 for loving a mechanical clock is you have, when you have a mechanical clock, you have weaved yourself into the legacy of this great engineering, the history, you know, the 400 years worth of history ever since this design was basically perfected, and all the stuff that led up to that. It is a legacy that you can jump into and participate in, and then it becomes a legacy that you create for yourself, because these types of clocks can be heirlooms. The kind of thing where someone someday says, yeah, I remember when my grandparents had this really cool clock, and someday I hope I can inherit that. Or, you know, if I can't get it, then I really want to find one like that, because, you know, so that's the kind of legacy you're building when you create an heirloom, when you have one of these elegant mechanical clocks. And that brings me to reason number 4 for loving mechanical clocks, and that is it's a great conversation piece. If someone comes to visit you and sees this among your things, more than likely they're going to take note of it. Now, maybe they'll be too shy to ask you about it and to start that conversation, but if they do, you can have a great conversation about how you acquired the timepiece, what it means to you, what you think your future will be with that timepiece, and your friend will probably ask more about, oh, where did you get that? How much did it cost? All those sorts of questions. I think it is a great conversation starter when you have something that, you know, even this one that's new, has that elegant old-time kind of antique-ish looking feel and look to it. It's wonderful. Something like this, you know, here's a nice wind-up clock from the 1990s that has, this is a great conversation piece if anyone pays attention to it. Very unique. It's based on, you know, the classic style of a wind-up alarm clock, but with some unique pieces there on the face. Of course, a tribute to Pinky and the Brain, and we love that. So that brings me to reason number 5 for loving these mechanical clocks, and that's the interaction. So you take something like this, okay? This is one that my some in-laws bought for me when they took their trip to Europe. And this one, you basically have to wind it every day to keep it running. So it demands that kind of interaction, especially if you're actually using this as your alarm clock. Then of course you've got to interact with it every day to make that happen. It doesn't have all the automatic features of some of our newer timepieces. Take something like this, okay? A really nice G-Shock watch. It's great. It's solar powered, so you don't have to change the batteries. You just expose it to light every day, and that keeps it running. It has the atomic time reception built into it. So you really only have to set the time zone on it one time, and the rest of the time it just runs by itself. In fact, if you're not using the stopwatch, the countdown timer, and the alarms on this, if all you do in the morning is put it on and leave the house, you know, there's very little interaction with this watch. It does its thing, kind of separate from what you're doing, and occasionally you look at it. It's almost as like the watch is saying, you know what, I'm busy, keeping perfect time. You just stay out of my way, and you know, and we'll be friends. So there is a certain, you know, lack of interaction unless, again, you're actively using alarms and stopwatches and things like that. So with mechanical watches and mechanical clocks, they demand daily interaction with something like this, or with something like this that has an 8-day movement. So just to be on the safe side, you probably have to wind it up about once a week. It demands that interaction. And something like this one, same thing. There are versions of this clock and, you know, other clocks that have weights and pendulums that hang on the wall, grandfather clock, that sort of thing, where you wind up the weights, you know, and reset those to a high position from time to time and keep them going. There's this demand of interaction from the timepiece, and also there's an interaction that you want to interact with the clock as well. So that's something that, again, makes it part of your life, part of your personality, part of your legacy. And for those of us that are into clocks, we can appreciate a clock that wants our attention, demands our attention, and gets our attention. This clock here, I assembled this from a kit back in 1994, and for a while there, I didn't have really a place to put it. I let it wind down and not run for a long time. Started it up, it wasn't running right. I finally got the right kind of oil and put some oil in specific places on the movement, and now it works just great again. And that's the kind of long-term legacy with regular maintenance and care, where a clock like this or that one can last for generations, and that's another big part of the legacy of your mechanical clock. So this brings me to reason number 6 for loving mechanical clocks, and that is the accuracy. Now, I did a video not too long ago where I mentioned that there are over 2.5 million seconds per month. Even in a 30-day month, over 2.5 million seconds. Now, if your clock was wrong by 1%, that would be over 7 hours of inaccuracy. So you can imagine a clock like this 400 years ago, they had a clock like this that could run as well as it does. If it were off by 1%, then at the end of a month, it would be off for 7 hours or more. And they're much better than that. They've been much better than that for hundreds of years. So you have to admire the accuracy that goes into this elegant and old technology. But reason number half step back for loving your mechanical clock is the accuracy. So that's why it's a total of 5.5 things you love about your mechanical clock, because the accuracy, again, compared to a quartz clock or a quartz watch, is not that great. We're talking, a quartz watch, even without the help of, atomic timekeeping, something like this clock here, or this watch, could be off by maybe 15 or 20 seconds a month, and that's all. Whereas you're usually kind of pretty lucky if you get that kind of accuracy on a mechanical clock. So we love it because they're as accurate as they are considering the technology, but also it may be for some people a little bit of a hassle that they're not more accurate than they are. And I know some people are really good at regulating and making some adjustments to get better and better accuracy. But for a lot of people today, it's really a set and forget thing, a convenience thing. They just want to know the time. They're not concerned about all these reasons I've just given for loving these clocks. So they want to, for something like this, put in the battery, set it once, and then just forget about it. Maybe, set it again when we have the change for daylight saving time, but that's all. And all they do is look at it. And there is no interaction until the battery needs to be replaced or the daylight saving time correction. And for most people, that's all they want to have as far as an interaction with a clock. So that's a double-edged sword, the accuracy, which is great for what it is, not so great compared to what is possible, but we still love our mechanical clocks. So that's my 5.5 reasons for loving mechanical clocks. Now, this is one that I just acquired. This is one I just acquired. I have some more videos to make, getting into more detail about some of these items you see right here on the table today. And so I hope you will continue to join me in future episodes of The Good Timekeeping Show.